Anger is something that you are going to have to deal with in your life, either within yourself or within other people, because anger actually comes up in your life. That's just how life is. And so what most people don't understand is that anger can be an incredibly powerful teacher. It can actually teach you how to be more present to the moment, because most people think anger is stopping them from being present. They think that anger is not allowing them to be present to the moment. So this person is not allowing me to be present to the moment because they're so angry, Francis. They're so reactive. Or my anger is stopping me from being present to the moment, Francis. How do I deal with this anger, right? So dealing with anger, the first thing you have to understand is that anger is an unconscious and explosive reaction that happens usually without your input to some degree. And you have input in your life. We all have free will. But when it comes to the unconscious energy of anger, it's almost like you're possessed by an external entity to some degree. Okay, and it's not an external entity, but the ego may appear as such when the moment arises. So I'm going to be sharing with you how to actually deal with these angry outbursts that happen unconsciously, reacting to life usually. Sometimes it can be a family member, sometimes it can be a friend where there's this anger, and it's like we know we don't want to have these emotions, but some part of us feels this urge to like get pulled back into it, right? And that's how the ego works. The ego never wants to go inward and remove the anger, and wants to project outwards and actually keep the anger going without realizing it. Okay, that's what the ego does. The anger projects outwards and keeps that energy alive. And so it's completely counterintuitive. But if you're new to this channel, I want you to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell, because I post a new video every single day. Also, if you wanted to work with me one-on-one and become a private client, then consider hitting the link that's in the description box of this video and applying for a free consultation. So dealing with anger is one of those things where it just happens unconsciously. So how do you deal with it? Well, the most ideal way to deal with anger would be to catch it while it's happening. Okay, because usually when anger happens, it's something that we don't even realize we're doing. It's like we only realize what has happened after the anger is done. And then you feel guilty. It's like, why did this happen? You might even think like you're turning into this pure evil person. Or you might be thinking, you're looking at your family member and you're like, how could they say something that's that evil, right? How could they possibly say that? Well, here's the thing, is that a lot of the times when you're in anger, it's almost like you're not even the one speaking. It's almost like something takes a hold of you. Something controls you. And so to deal with this energy is to understand that in the midst of an angry outburst within your family or within a friend, this is a very, very unconscious energy. Very, very unconscious. So you don't have conscious awareness usually of what's happening. Usually you don't even have conscious awareness, and all the consciousness and all the focus is completely identified with the mind. So all that energy is stuck in the past and the future, and it wants to stay there. It doesn't actually want to leave. It wants to stay in that energy. And so what happens is, when you're feeling angry, are you present to the moment? Okay, usually not. Usually when we're feeling angry, there's no conscious awareness of breathing, for example, or the sounds that you're hearing in the room, or the inner body, right? The energy. Like you can feel energy in your hands if you just become conscious of it, right? Like I can feel energy in my hands right now, just recording this video. Right? I can actually feel the energy in the room of this camera and the presence of the camera, and I feel that right now. I can feel it just being present. But then here's the thing. When you're in the midst of an angry outburst, where does all that consciousness go? where does all that energy go? It goes right into the mind. It goes right into the thinking mind. There's no conscious awareness of your hands or your breathing like that. But the ego doesn't know what that is. The ego has no awareness of what these things actually are. The ego doesn't want to bring awareness to the inner body. The ego doesn't want to bring awareness to your breathing in the midst of an argument. Imagine you walk up to an angry person and you say, hey, just calm down, just focus on your breathing. He'll flip the attention back onto you and then make you seem like the bad person. And now you get angry and then you project it back onto them. What is even an argument? An argument is two people defending their own sense of self. Okay? They're defending an ideology. They're defending a belief system. They're both defending ideas in their mind of who they think they are. So it's just two people defending an idea. That's all it really is. It's just two people attached to some sort of concept, and they want to defend that concept. And when you're defending that concept, and that's all you care about, you don't care about inner peace. You care about survival. Not physical survival, but the concept of what you're trying to defend, which usually implies who you think you are in that moment, right? The sense of self that you're attached to. And so what you have to realize is that in the midst of anger, that's all the ego cares about. The ego just cares about defending that sense of self. That's all it wants to do. It wants to be right. In the midst of anger, you just want to be right. Or you want to keep that energy alive to some degree because that's how the ego survives. So in that midst of anger, the last thing the ego wants to do is shift into its sense perceptions and become the conscious observer of thoughts. That's not at all what it wants to do. It wants to do the exact opposite. It wants to keep that concept alive and just keep it going. That's all it really wants. It wants to keep that survival mechanism playing on a loop and keep that energy alive. Okay? So you don't actually want to feel anger, I know that. There's a deeper essence within you. There's a deeper space within you that doesn't want to feel anger. But you have to become conscious of this deeper space in the midst of the argument or the midst of the angry outburst within yourself. Maybe you're reacting to a situation. It doesn't have to necessarily be an argument with the person or even be a situation with the person at all. It could just be you reacting to something in your life. And so to understand how to deal with this and deal with these angry outbursts, the ideal way to deal with it would be to catch it while it happens and then shift your awareness to maybe your breathing, for example. That's one way to do it, right? You notice the anger coming up, it's a shadow aspect of you. You can shift your awareness to your breathing and just take some time to fully be there with the anger, okay? I'm not saying suppress. What I'm saying to you is the opposite of suppression. But it's not necessarily expressing it either. It could mean expressing it depending on what arises in the midst of that moment. But what you want to do is shift to your breathing and become the conscious observer of that anger. Don't identify with that anger because that anger is not who you are. It is just simply a conditioned pattern that is coming from the past, right? It's not who you are. It's a conditioned pattern. That's all it is. But in the midst of the anger, you identify with that anger. You believe it is who you are. You attach to the anger. It's not that you are the spacious presence with an emotional field, with an emotional energy of anger in your awareness. It's literally you identify with that anger. You say, I am angry, right? The ego says, I am angry. I am this emotion. Well, here's the thing is that you are not an emotion, okay? You are not an emotion. You are something much deeper than just an emotion, okay, or a thought. You are the spacious observer of that emotion. And the more that you can shift into this spacious awareness of just being there as the conscious observer, what happens is the anger starts to slowly dissipate. It starts to slowly dissipate. And here's the thing though, this is the last thing once again that you're going to want to do. You're not going to want to do this in the midst of anger, an angry outburst. But what I'm asking you to do counterintuitively is to just simply be there as the conscious witnessing presence. Okay? Just be there as the conscious witnessing presence. Shift to your breathing. Notice the sounds in your room. Notice the energy field of your hands or your legs or your arms. Feel that emotion fully. But don't just feel the emotion. Don't just feel into it. Be there not as a human being or the ego or attached to the emotion or even the thoughts that are attached to that emotion. Just be there as the observer. Okay? And what you'll find is that you don't, it almost feels like you're dying to some degree when you do this. It's like you really feel like you're dying. It really feels bad. It really feels, it's a very lower vibrational state of consciousness. And so you're bringing light to the darkness. And so that may be a little bit uncomfortable because the ego doesn't want to do this. The ego doesn't want to actually do this. But you have to do it if you want to let go of this anger. Okay, it's the same way whether it's within you or within the other or two people arguing. That's all it really is. You want to just be there with it. You want to unlock that deeper space within you in the midst of the anger. And so once again, the ideal way would be to deal with this when the anger comes up. But sometimes that's not always an option. Sometimes you've already been in the midst of an argument for, however long. Maybe it's been 5 minutes you've been arguing with this person, or maybe you've just been in a reactive thought loop of anger for however long, and then you feel this anger and you're just sitting there, and then you become conscious of the fact that you're angry. You're like, whoa, you shift into that observing presence, the stillness behind all form, right? You shift into that, and then you realize what's really going on. You realize that you were actually unconsciously identified with your thoughts and your emotions. Here's the amazing thing though. It's not a bad thing. People think like, that's such a bad thing that I didn't realize I was angry. Oh my gosh, I'm conscious of the fact that I'm angry now. No, that's a good thing. That's a very good thing, because when you become conscious of the fact that you're unconscious, you're not unconscious any longer. Okay? Unconsciousness implies that you don't know that you're unconscious. That's the paradox of the ego. Not only does the ego not know, the ego doesn't know that it doesn't know. It's pure ignorance. It's a pure state of not knowing. Not in the good way, which I'll get to in another video, but in a way that you have no idea that this, almost like this external entity that we can call the ego, is completely controlling your experience. It's almost as if you don't have free will in that moment. That's why you may say things that you don't mean. That's why you can feel so guilty afterwards when you're angry. Usually guilt is followed by anger, almost always. Why is that? Because it's almost like you're not even the one doing it. You are to an extent, but to another extent, you're extremely unconscious, right? Completely unconscious usually, or very little consciousness, which is not a good or bad thing. It's not better or worse to be conscious. It is what it is, but it is what it is in that moment. You're unconscious. Doesn't mean better or worse. It just means that is where you are at in that moment. That's the state of consciousness that you're in. And so ideally, once again, you notice it as it happens and you stop the reactive pattern. You stop the reactive pattern while it actually arises, and you break the pattern. You break the conditioned pattern. You do the shadow work. You complete the past, so to speak. You're completing the past when you do this. Because when you notice that pattern, you disidentify from the pattern and you realize that it's not who you are. you shift as the spacious observer, you then let it go, because being conscious of something is actually letting go. Awareness is letting go. Letting go is simultaneous with, it comes together simultaneously with being aware. Letting go comes together with being aware. You cannot let go of something unless you're conscious of it first. I'll give you an example. If you're unconscious of the fact that your shoulders are tense, right? The only way to release those muscles is to become conscious of the fact that you are actually holding onto those muscles. And imagine a friend, they don't realize that they're tight. They're tight in their body. So you walk up to them and you say, "Hey, are you conscious of the fact that your muscles are kind of tight?" You walk up to them, you say, "You may not realize it, but your muscles are kind of tight." And the person goes, "Oh, well, I didn't even realize that. Thanks for letting me know." And then they relax, right? They just let it go. The awareness is the letting go. So in that same way, awareness of anger is the same thing. Because usually we don't realize that we are angry, just like you don't realize that you're holding on to tense muscles. So the awareness is already the first step, but usually it doesn't always happen where you realize it as the anger comes up. You might realize it 10 minutes later. So what you do there is the same process. You become conscious of it maybe in the midst of it. What do? You become conscious of the fact that you're unconscious, which now means that you're not unconscious anymore. You become aware of it and you just simply let it go. But the awareness is the letting go, and you'll experience this. When you disidentify, and you just disidentify meaning you stop creating an identity around this anger, because it's not who you are. It's just a reactive pattern that you probably got from society, right? When you were born, you were not this angry being. The anger comes as a result of conditioning. So you're almost unlearning what you've learned, right? You're literally letting go of the stuff that you've attached to. And anger is one of those shadow emotions, or the unconscious ego emotions. Because what is even the ego, right? Once again, I share this in all my videos, but I'm going to share it with you once again. The ego is the unobserved part of you, right? It's the part of you that attaches and identifies with thought. So it attaches to the thought, believing that the thought is who it actually is, when it doesn't realize that it is just actually a thought form, right? A thought is not who you are. A thought is just a thought. But in the midst of an unconscious state, you identify with those thoughts, believing that they are actually who you are, right? And that's the paradox of all of this, is that it is just a thought, but in the midst of the ego state, you believe and you take these thoughts so seriously, and you believe that these thoughts are who you actually are. You create a sense of self, and part of that sense of self includes all the lower level emotions like anger and anxiety and fear and worry and depression, right? Reactivity to life, not feeling grounded, not feeling present, because you're attached. You're attached to your thoughts. You believe that your thoughts are who you are, not seeing that you are simply the spacious witnessing presence of thoughts. Okay, it's a deeper stillness within you. It's just awareness, it's this presence, it's just this, the watcher. It's a deeper spiritual part of you. And the word doesn't necessarily have to matter. Right? Don't attach to the words. The words are just words. They're just pointers. Okay, I'm just pointing you to a deeper dimension within you that you can always access, but we are unconscious of it because we're attached to our thoughts. Okay, there's always a deeper stillness within you that you can directly become conscious of. But the only way to become conscious of it is to disidentify first from the thoughts and the emotions. Okay, become conscious of your breathing. Become conscious of the sounds. But not just the sounds, also the stillness in the background of the sounds. Okay? Become conscious of a sound in your room right now. Notice how there's the sound and there's also the stillness in the background of the sound. And this is where it goes a little bit deeper, but the mind can't understand this. And so you want to tap into that state when the anger actually comes up. Okay? You want to shift to that stillness, which is the last thing that you're going to want to do in the midst of the anger. Because when you're feeling angry, we tend to just want to project outwards. We don't want to turn inwards. We want to keep projecting out and playing the victim role. Okay? Saying why people made us angry, or why the situation made us angry, or why this made us angry, or why that made us angry, or why the person is to blame, or why this is not my fault. You are generating anger within your being. So you have to take responsibility. There's nothing outside of you creating the anger. You are creating that anger. So counterintuitively, the way to deal with this and take responsibility is to connect to that stillness. The more that you connect to the stillness, you can simply observe the reactive pattern and stop it in its track. Then complete it. And every single time you do this, your anger outbursts will just get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until you don't have anger that much in your life. Okay? I don't experience much anger in my life anymore. Okay, I did for a long time because certain family members had anger. Okay, people around me had anger. That's part of society. It's part of life. We'll have anger. People will have anger. And so now I don't deal with much anger at all. And if I do, I can simply observe it and let it go very, very quickly. If a situation comes to me where there's anger, it does not affect me because I don't accept it. I accept it fully, actually, but I don't allow it to attach to my being. By accepting it, I don't accept it to some weird paradoxical degree, because by fully accepting it and just letting it go, I don't attach to it. Okay? And so the last thing I wanted to share with you, to make this video go full circle, because I'm pretty sure I mentioned this at the beginning, anger is a powerful teacher. Okay? Some of the most powerful lessons that I've ever learned in my life was by learning how to deal with the shadow parts of me, including anger, or the shadow within the other that is just a reflection of me. Okay, because if you see shadow in the other, it's just probably going to come back at you, and you have to learn how to deal with that. So anger is a powerful teacher. I can actually teach you to be more present to the moment. Some of the most powerful lessons that I've ever learned are with the unconscious people around me in my life. Okay, the unconscious people, the angry people, the narcissistic people. Okay, which is not a good or bad thing. Okay, the ego labels these things as bad, but they're not inherently bad. There's no such thing as a good or bad emotion. And so learning how to deal with these angry people has developed my spirituality to incredible levels that I couldn't possibly have learned how to get to with just meditating daily. Okay? I've been meditating every single day for the last 4 years, which has given me the tools and the understanding of how to deal with these people and deal with this emotion within myself. But anger is not a bad thing. It's a sign. It's a reminder telling you to be more present to the moment. So when you experience anger, use it as a reminder to be more present. It's like, oh, I'm feeling angry. Oh yeah, that's my reminder. I have to become the spacious observer and focus on my breathing. Use it as a reminder. Do the counterintuitive move. Be more wise than most people. Okay? Be more wise. Don't just follow the herd. Don't just react. That's exactly what the ego wants. Do the opposite of what the ego wants and observe it fully and turn your attention inwards. Okay? Don't turn your attention outwards. Don't blame anybody. Don't call up a friend and say how angry you are. That's the ego can do as well. The ego can call up a friend and say, oh my God, this family member, and then I just stubbed my toe. It was so horrific, and then this happened and that happened. See, it always likes to go outward. That's what the ego does, just outward, 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 outward. It just fails to self-reflect. It fails to self-reflect. So do the counterintuitive move and turn your attention inwards when you feel anger. That is your spiritual practice. That is the practice I have for you. So whenever you feel that anger coming up in your being, don't turn your attention outwards. Just simply bring the attention inwards and fully be there. Do the counterintuitive move. Okay, that's your spiritual practice. That's your homework, so to speak. Use the anger as a reminder to shift deeper into the present moment, because it can actually help you to shift deeper into the essence of who you are. Because if you can stay present when anger arises, or when any shadow aspect of you comes up, it's going to be a lot easier to stay present in every other moment of your life, because it's very easy to stay present when you're in nature, or you're meditating, or sometimes I sit on my chair and I'll just look at the tapestry on my wall, and I'll just look at it and just kind of meditate on it and feel the spaciousness of the room. Okay, just feel the presence in the room. Feel the form fully. Just see the beauty in whatever it is that I'm looking at. It's very easy to do that. But can you remain in that state of consciousness when the anger comes up? That is your homework. That's your practice. Okay, be more wise. Be more wise. Don't allow these lower level emotions to control your experience. Become a master of your emotions. Become a master of the anger. Okay, stop being the puppet of anger. The ego is almost like an external thing that tries to control you. Okay, a lot of the times we are not in control of our minds, but our mind is controlling us. So do the counterintuitive thing. Become the conscious observer, and you'll find that you start to take control of your emotions. Not by trying to control them, but by observing them and allowing them to be there, you end up letting them go, which ends up counterintuitively becoming more controlling of your emotions. It's very counterintuitive, because what you want to do is accept it fully, release the control, and you end up controlling anyways. Okay, that's the paradox of mindfulness and spirituality and dealing with anger, is that it's completely counterintuitive, totally paradoxical. So be more wise, and that's the homework I have for you. Use the anger as a reminder to be more present to the moment. Use it as a simple reminder. Okay, it's a powerful spiritual practice that can help you go much deeper into the present moment. So that's all I have for you today. If you like this video, make sure you give this video a like and a comment if this video helped you out. And if you want to download my free guided meditation, then consider hitting the link that's in the description box of this video, because it's completely free. I'll also leave it as a comment in this video. And so that meditation is specifically designed to help you connect deeper to the present moment. So if you want to try that out, it's completely free, and it will help you connect deeper to the present moment. So that's all I have for you today. Have yourself a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.